Okay. Yes. So, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Vancouver Power BI, Excel, and Innovative Educators Meetup Group's second session in 2022. I mean, sorry. So, after a greeting, I would like to introduce our agenda of today's meetup. So, after greeting, we will go on giving a little information about our sponsor, so-called Enterprise DNA. And then I will talk a little bit about my Data Summit 2023 and books that I have translated from English into Azerbaijan language, and also we'll have Q&A session. So this meetup session is sponsored by New Zealand educational platform so-called Enterprise DNA, and each session everybody has two participants will be randomly chosen for 1 year access for New Zealand educational platform, so-called Enterprise. So Enterprise DNA is a great platform where you can get or learn more about Power Platform products, including Power Apps, Power Automate, and also Power BI. By the way, a few days ago, Enterprise DNA has organized a summit, data analytics summit, where you can get roughly 40-hour content. It's all about Power Platform products, specifically Power BI and Power Automate. So as for my data summit, as you may know, me and my friend from India, Faraz Sheikh, we together organized my data summit 2023, in September. And this year, we are also most probably will organize this event, and it's also going to take place in September. So in next days, I will be able to give more information about this event. And I would like also talk about so-called Financial Modeling in Excel for Dummies book. This is a great book which is related to Excel and also financial modeling. And then the author of this book is Daniel Stein-Ferris from Australia. And this book has already been translated into Azerbaijan language. So in March 2023, Azerbaijani readers will be able to get this book in their native languages. And also in March, Kempulse's book, so-called Master Your Data, it's about Power Query. It will be completed translation, and also this book will be available at the end of March and in the beginning of April 2023. So yeah, Azerbaijan reader will have an opportunity to get also this book. So as for today's speaker, today we have Rhia. I hope Wieclawek. I hope I pronounced Rhia's name and surname correctly. And she's going to I'm sorry for this. I hope you will you will correct my mistake. I'm very sorry for this. She will be talking about process automation, and I hope and strongly believe that really it's very interesting topic. She will be giving the necessary information in next minutes. And as for our next speaker, we are going to host Alice, I hope, Drummond from Australia. She is very famous with environmental analysis in Power BI. So she will be talking about environmental analysis in Power BI, and it's going to happen in March. I will give the next exact time. So if you are interested in previous sessions, as you may know, different people from different parts of the globe have delivered speech on behalf of the members of Power BI Meetup Group. So you can watch these, sessions from my YouTube channel, just Ilgar Zarbayev. It's enough for finding my YouTube channel. Okay, and this is my, you can reach me from this link. You can get all my social media links from linktr.ee/Ilgar Zarbayev. And the next session is going to happen on March 29th. I have written wrong. it's not really the exact time. I mean, yeah, it must be 2023. So I'm waiting for you March also, and I hope and strongly believe that we'll have very interesting session with Elias Drummond. So that's it from my side, and I would like to deliver stage to lovely Rhia. So stage is yours. You can share and go on. Thank you. And once again, sorry for mispronunciation. I mean, I didn't pronounce your name correctly. I'm sorry for that. Yes.
Oh, don't worry about it. No one pronounces my name correctly, even me, I'm guessing. My husband is Polish, so it's tricky. All right, let's get started. So I am going to be talking about Power Automate today to an extent, but we're actually going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence and where it's hiding inside of Microsoft 365 applications. So we're going to kind of look at the whole picture. I don't think I'm going to end up teaching you folks anything new about Excel that you didn't know, but there are some new expressions in there, which, you know, if you're keeping up with the expressions and how they're changing in Excel, then you'll know. But if you're not, hey, this is good stuff. This will be good stuff as well. So let's get started. I'm also going to make sure I have the chat open in case there are any questions as I'm going through. I don't find questions distracting or anything, and if I don't think it works with the flow, I'll just ignore it until I'm done. So by all means, pepper me with questions. All right. So my name is Rhia Wieclawek. It's phonetic in the bottom right-hand corner here, so you can see how those words make sense. It's tricky. I get it. I'm actually a process improvement and automation specialist. Workflows are basically my life. I build a lot of workflows for a lot of different organizations and reasons, and I love them. Workflows are they're my life. I also do governance, I do training, and I've worked in SharePoint and Teams since 2011. Well, for SharePoint, for Teams since it existed. And I'm an independent consultant. I'm in Vancouver, BC, Canada. So every so often you'll hear a Canadian accent come out of me. Yeah. So before we start talking about what's inside of M365, let's make sure we agree on what we're talking about when we say artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is actually a grouping of different things that can happen. So for example, something like machine learning, it actually just means it's picking up data, it's running it through a process or an algorithm, and it's analyzing it based on what humans have told it to do. So really, when we're looking at artificial intelligence of any type, it's still all based on steps that humans have determined. We also have something like deep learning. That's a more advanced version where we use neural networks, pardon me. And that is where your machine learning is trying to figure out what the underlying relationships are between different types of data. It's trying to mimic the way that the human brain operates. Now, there are components set of M365 in the AI builder that kind of try that, but we don't really get that advanced. Next is natural language, where we're just taking insights from human language. How do people speak? How do people put different words together? Why do they do it in the ways that they do? Robotics, that's taking accountable actions. That's like an arm being connected to pick something up and move it. We have fuzzy logic, which is, as it says here, degrees of truth, which basically means it's not a yes, it's not a no, it's a maybe, it's a percentage of an answer, that sort of scenario. We'll have examples of that. And then we have something called expert systems, which is like making a judgment call between a set of data and what action we should take. Again, trying to mimic humans. Of course, everything to know here is that the artificial intelligence that's built is only as good as the data that's fed into it, and it's only as good as the human trying to get information out of it. So let's start here. Let's take a look at Excel first. So inside of Excel, there are some examples of AI. There is actually there are features for identifying the correct charts, pivot tables, giving you examples on what it thinks you might want. We have data types where it can actually determine based on what you've input to Excel and connect to data outside to give you more information. There's analysis where you can actually ask questions directly about your data and have it try to answer that. And there's actually mobile OCR as well, where it can look at an image and translate it into Excel. So let's take a look at what those look like. First off, the example of the being able to identify and give more information based on what you input. So inside here, if I type in Excel that I have Canada, United States, Japan, it automatically knows that those are places. And when I hover over top of them, I actually get a pop-up that tells me a little bit more information about it. Now, this is kind of basic AI because it's looking for words it's familiar with that are in a particular category. It's marking them with an icon for that category, and then it's giving you a hover state so that you can see more information. Now, the same is true for stocks. If it identifies a corporation that has a stock associated, it can give you live updates on that. But again, it's through Wikipedia for the image, gives you the information, and again, it's a hover state. The next one that I'm sure you folks are all familiar with now because you're in Excel all the time, but as soon as you have a table of data, it's going to start giving you recommendations on what type of table or chart might be best for your data and what kind of questions it can answer. What I really like about this is that there's been lots of times where I've entered a table of data and I haven't been exactly sure on how I wanted to show what I was trying to show. So by scrolling through here, I got some different ideas and I could always start from there and get going on how that looks. The other one here is getting data into Excel from a mobile phone. I don't know. I'd be very interested to know if any folks in here, and just let me know in the chat, if you've used this function before. It's where you can take a picture of a table of data in any paper or space and automatically have it translate into an Excel table. I haven't actually seen how well this works, but I've seen examples of other folks using it and it looks pretty accurate. It seems like a very quick way to get things into a table in a clean manner. That's a great thing where it's taking AI, it's taking the text, but then using that AI to identify, okay, where should the lines in this table be? What are the headers? That kind of thing. And then finally, just to make this kind of an update on the actions that we have, we now have, and Excel and Microsoft count this as AI, the ability to do live dynamic arrays using the unique expression or formula, the filter, and the sort, where you can do this live inside of Excel, take a look and have it sort or filter or return unique values using your expression. Now, the only other expression I wanted to make sure that you folks were aware of, if you weren't, and it's not AI, it's just an expression, but text after and text before is something that they added in 2021 or 2022. And it kind of blew my mind, honestly, because I was so used to using search, match, index to go in and find particular things. But if you use text after or text before, you can get things a lot faster. On the topic of AI, you can actually start writing Excel formulas using ChatGPT. So I went in and I used plain English to just ask it to write an Excel formula to look up the value that is in column C and row 12. And it did it. It did it. Did it do it cleanly? Did it do it the way that I would do it? Not really, but it gave me something. It gave me a start. And again, ChatGPT can be very good for finding a starting place. If you're stuck on where to go, if you need ideas, it does okay. It does all right. So next we're going to hop into Microsoft Word. We have the Microsoft Editor and we have Smart Search. So inside of Word, we have the Microsoft Editor, which can pick up different pieces inside. So it's going to tell you things like how many words do you have and how many aren't repeated, how long to speak the entire thing, to read it out, how difficult is it, all that kind of fun stuff. It's also going to look through things like clarity. The thing to know about this that I also just learned is you can actually edit what it's going to give you. So as an example, if I look at some kind of text like this and it's giving me, formality ratings, it's giving me, how clear is this? How concise is it? And it's underlining each of those things for me. Maybe not all of those things are useful to me. I can edit it. Using the Microsoft Editor settings, I can go in and I can decide what's important for me. So for me, it's super important to always have the Oxford comma. I'm a big Oxford comma person. I want to make sure it's always there. So I have actually gone in, I have selected punctuation conventions, and I have made sure that is checked. There are all sorts of things in here, including things to make sure that you're not excluding people through gender or age or anything else. It will pick up on those sorts of things and highlight it for you if you choose. By default, some of these things are not checked. So I recommend going in and checking that out. You can actually get to it through Outlook, and the triple, go to your editor, go to your triple ellipses and go to settings. And in there, you'll find this. And this is where you can modify it. And there are so many options. It's very interesting. And take a peek at that. The next one inside of Microsoft Word is the conciseness. Now, eventually these things are going to come to Outlook as well, to this effect. So this is actually going to take wordiness and it's going to give you recommendations on how to make it a little bit more succinct. The problem I have for sure, tend to ramble on a little bit. It's going to capture on that. But again, this is using AI to go and identify that natural language and see if it can be made better. And this one is the summary generator. Now, this is an interesting one because you'll find generally that you don't have this in your organization. I don't have it in mine. The reason being is that since it's using this sort of natural language generation, you have to actually submit an online request and have it approved by Microsoft to be able to have this implemented. What it's doing, though, is it's looking at your entire document and it's pulling out what it determines to be the key points. In addition to having to submit an online request for it, you actually only have it in specific areas. That's North Europe, Eastern United States, and the south of the UK. Very specific areas. I'm guessing it's based on language and localization. It's an interesting capability, but not available to all of us quite yet. And then we have Smart Search. Now, when I started doing this presentation a long time ago, even before AI Builder existed, I was talking about Smart Search, but it seems that Smart Search over the time has turned into what's called Viva Topics. Viva Topics is something that you have to subscribe to. I do a whole other presentation on Viva and what all different components are and what they do, but to give you a really quick insight into Viva Topics, basically what it does is it looks through all the different data that you used in your organization inside of SharePoint and Yammer and Teams, etc. And it compiles things and it identifies, hey, you talk about this particular thing a lot. Is this a topic that you want to highlight? You click yes or no. And if yes, it will start collecting data on that. So what that means for us is that when we have a person that's typing out a Word document and they use that term and they search it, it's actually going to bring back information from within the organization as well as a topic card based on what's been approved. But again, Viva Topics is a whole conversation in itself. It's very interesting. Happy to talk about Viva sometime. Then we have Outlook. So Outlook has a lot of the same capabilities as Word does, but I also want to talk about Viva Insights. It didn't used to be Viva Insights. Again, it's another thing that's been swallowed up by the Insight or the Viva collection. I want to talk about that just so, because a lot of people don't know what it's doing actually in the background. So the first one is pretty easy. It's tone recommendations. This is really great if you're finding that people find your emails too blunt, or if you're getting people telling you that they didn't understand your intent or it seemed aggressive. There's now a tone recommendation inside of your Outlook. To do that, to turn it on, you actually have to go into your editor, and go into your Microsoft Editor settings, scroll to the very bottom, and there is an option there called tone, and under that there's called politeness. This can be, I know a few people who could benefit from this one for sure. It's much easier to get people to do what you want them to do when you're nice to them rather than being negative. So it's good to catch you on that. Even if you decide that you want to ignore it entirely, it's good to know when someone else might interpret something maybe differently than you intended. Now, for me, when I went into my Outlook and looked for it, I don't have this option. It is generally available and it has been since 2021. So it should be there for you folks. It might be because I'm, independent on my own. Let's quickly talk about Viva Insights, just because it is a bunch of collection of data that's coming in. Sorry, just checking something. Okay. Inside of Viva Insights, it's collecting data about the way that you work. A lot of these things we already know about. This on the right is how it used to look when it was brand new. I'm just using this screenshot because it's easier to get in a slide to show you all the different pieces. The way it looks now is on the left-hand side here. So since the rise of remote work, it wants to do things like making sure you set lunch hours, making sure that you plan time away, making sure that you, there's another one in here right now in Outlook, which is set your virtual commute, which is, hey, let me know when I'm going to be wrapping up at the end of the day. Let me know when I should start shutting down. Some of these are useful. I personally don't really use them, but I can see how it would be very useful for a lot of folks, especially if you're having a lot of really big meetings. Making sure that you have attachments that you've reviewed. It goes through your emails and identifies emails you haven't responded to that might have tasks associated in them. I can tell from this one here that I still am owing some documentation on my taxes because of the name that's associated with it. Identifying important people, all that kind of fun stuff. Now, here's the thing about these. When you're using it and you're going through, it's identifying the data and it's going to give you some cool outputs. So identifying like, hey, here's how often you spend doing email outside of your quiet days, or how often have you actually taken time away? But there's more to this. So in the background, leadership and managers, if they're in the subscription, they get more data as well about how their employees are working through insights. So this also calculates things like burnout, or how often people are talking to each other after hours. How often are they looking at, how often are they just typing an email when they're in a meeting with you? How do you prevent employee burnout? How often are there meetings? Like they're very good decision-making tools. There's a lot in there. But just to know that this data is collected and that, managers can access it. I just thought it was really interesting because of it makes a lot of assumptions based on what folks are doing, but it does seem to have good intentions around it. For me, the most important ones were, how often are people doing other things while they're in your meeting? Just to know it's out there. PowerPoint has a lot of AI in it, actually. And I use some of them, not all of them. But for example, we have the designer, which will come through and give you some different, PowerPoint templates to get you started. I don't use those because, as you can see, I like really obnoxious, bright colors, and PowerPoint doesn't think I should do that. Sorry, PowerPoint, I do what I want. It will also go through and suggest things like iconography. So if you just use SmartArt or whatever else and ask it to generate slides for you, it will come up with icons. The icons on this particular screen, PowerPoint chose them. I didn't choose them. It did a pretty good job. You can do ink inside of here, where it will actually take that ink, if you're just scratching things in, and turn it into text or graphics or math, or like formulas. It will also give you perspectives on really large numbers to make them more consumable. I'll give you an example of that. For the coach, it's actually going to let you go through as if you're doing a presentation, and it's going to check and see, like, hey, are you saying or a lot? Are you using filler words like? How original is your content? It is going to go through some of the same things we saw in Microsoft Editor earlier, where it's looking for ageism, sexism, all that kind of fun stuff, and speed. The speed part is a common issue for me. I tend to go quite fast, usually because I'm overexcited about what I'm talking about. So it usually catches me on that. And Quick Starter. And I have never met a person who's used Quick Starter before, but I want you to know that it's there. So Quick Start, if you go into your PowerPoint for desktop and you go to New, it will let you choose Quick Start, as it looks like a template. Honestly, before I knew what it was, I thought it was going to be some sort of help page, something to that effect, but it's not. You click on it, you choose a topic, anything you want, because it's connected to the internet. It's going to go search it for you. PowerPoint builds it out. Once it builds it out, it's actually going to select the slides and show you what's there, so that you can choose. It's actually going
for background noise. Sorry.
No, all good. It's actually going to let you choose what slides you want to keep. Once you select the slides that you want to keep, then an outline's generated for you. Not only does it give you this really cool outline, but it also makes sure that it has notes clear for you that are hidden. It documents all the sources that these things came from. It creates a slide for every subject it found on that topic, and it actually goes and gets a royalty-free image that's associated and puts it in there. It's super basic information, but it gets you started. It helps kind of give you the basis and give you some ideas on where to go from there. Now that's a very cool AI, because it's trying to search around for like it would as a human. Oh, absolutely, Ricardo. The Microsoft Sway. Has anybody ever actually used Sway? Like, no offense to Sway, it is what it is. I've never seen anybody use it. But I really like this, perspectives. Now, I can tell as a Canadian that it thinks I'm American, because when I put in Canadian data, it gives me a perspective as an American, as a localization. So you can see in the top one, it's using Vermont. In the bottom one, it's using California. That's pretty funny. What it does, though, and you'll find this in perspectives. So if you create a new slide and you put in a numerical fact of, hey, 1,500 or sea turtles travel 1,500 kilometers or miles per year to lay their eggs. It's going to go and it's going to identify if there's some other way it can present that data. In this scenario, when I said that the population of Victoria is 367,000-ish people, it said that's about half the population of Vermont. If I'm talking to an American audience, that makes sense. That helps them identify, hey, that's what this looks like. This is actually pretty useful. It's also really fun to play with to see what it looks like. Also, Gerald and Ricardo, I would be super curious to know what you thought of using Sway and what the benefits are in comparison to PowerPoint. If it's just like is it just faster, I guess, more for quick things? Anyway, the next piece is ink transition. I'm always pretty impressed by this, because as you can see, I can just scratch on in whatever I want. Maybe I'm working on my laptop. Maybe I'm just doing something fast. It will change my ink into text. So chicken to chicken. It will change my scratched out star here into an actual graphic star. And it will take my formula and turn it into it will actually turn it into the way it's supposed to look, including that mathematical character. It's pretty impressive. It can pick that up and put it into text. And also, as you probably know, PowerPoint has a range of math equations in it. So it's ready and it understands that it's math related. And then we have the rehearsal report, which always blows me away because it's so precise. And now what's fairly new on it is it used to be able to give you a rehearsal report. That's, not super new, but now it can give you live feedback. So for example, if I'm reading through a slide and I start stuttering or going or whatever else, it's going to tell me, hey, right now you're saying a lot. Is it because of this particular slide? Do you not know enough about this topic, whatever it might be, and highlight it for me. So to get to that, you're going to go into your PowerPoint presentation. You'll go up to slideshow. You'll do rehearse with coach, and it will go through. This is also really good if you have a specific amount of time that you are supposed to fill. You want to make sure that you have enough for that particular time, and you're good to go. Oh, interesting. So you've used Sway for educational lesson plans and presentations. Oh, it has a learning curve. Interesting. Okay. I didn't know there was that much to it. Maybe I'll have to dive back into Sway and see what it's all about. Cool. Thank you. So some good to knows. We have photo captioning, which we've run into, I'm sure, in SharePoint. It's around SharePoint. It's in some other tools. I think it might actually be in Sway. We have video captioning, and we also have dictation. Dictation, I'm not going to go through. It's that microphone that's basically in everything now, so that you can just talk into your microphone and have the words appear in front of you on the screen. We're in 2023. We're all pretty used to that. But with photo captioning and video captioning, I think the important thing is to never just leave it alone. Photo captioning can sometimes be pretty funny and sometimes pretty inappropriate. And the same is true for video captioning. I don't know how many of you folks have used Stream and used the transcribe, which is now also in Microsoft Teams. You can also do closed captioning, but it is hit and miss. Let me show you an example. For video captioning, this is from a meeting that I had a very long time ago, but it came out with sentences that we absolutely did not say. I think my favorite here is text Terry Batman made. Don't know what that means. Don't know what that was. This isn't to say that transcribing is bad by any means. I think it's great. And a lot of times it's very accurate. And for me, it's great to go into a video and search for a particular word and bring that back. But just to know that it's not going to capture you word for word. So you should still take notes is basically what I'm trying to say. I love this though. 80 buffets. Yes. And a horse, it is either Mainville. Okay. Did you die that removed the TV? I mean, it tries its hardest. But it's AI. It's learning. It's trying to figure out different people's accents, the way that people talk, how the words go together, all while trying to add in appropriate punctuation. It's doing its best. And then we have photo captioning, which also does a great job. So if I give it a strange picture like this, which is, I don't expect it to know, it still does a pretty good job. It says a bird flying through the air. Okay, I mean, that's not inaccurate. It got that it's a bird. It's pretty good. It's not flying through the air, but it has human arms. So, naturally, that's probably not going to work. Here's another one. It's another bird with arms. These are very strange. It makes sense for the AI to not understand what this is. It says a man flying through the air while holding a bird. The AI has been able to determine that there is a man in the picture because of the hair, vest, the arms, but it also sees that there's a bird. It doesn't care or know that the hair is on the bird. It can't make that connection and it wouldn't know what to call it, but it's trying. But even when you get to images that are very well known, it's not picking those things up. So a woman posing for a picture. Yep, that's accurate. But you would think by now, I guess maybe I'm being I'm assuming of it, it would know that it's a classical painting because of the way that it's formulated, or that it's not really a photo of a human. But but it's still doing a pretty good job. This is to say that if accessibility is in the forefront of your mind, and it should be, especially when people are trying to maybe, an example of somebody, these are by default for people who might have issues with vision, but it also benefits people who might be trying to have a SharePoint page or whatever else read out to them, maybe while they're going on a road trip or doing something else where they can't look at their screen. It lets people multitask. So having a description of the images that you put in is really beneficial. But now we're going to hop into the AI builder in Power Automate. This is where we actually start talking about building artificial intelligence and what we have. Now, again, as I mentioned earlier, I've been doing this presentation for quite some time, and I update it every time I do it. So I updated this actually yesterday. And they've added a lot since the last time I did this. So welcome to the future of Power Automate and AI. For those of you who don't know, if you have an M365 license, the AI Builder is available to you right inside of the Power Automate portal. To get there, you can go to make.powerautomate.com, and it will be in the left-hand side in the blade, and you'll have the AI Builder. You can see that over here, AI Builder, and we have Explore and Models and Document Automation. Now, there used to only be 4 of these, and now that I've come back in and looking at it again, we actually they've split it out into multiple to make it easier. So we have things like getting information from invoices. Didn't used to exist. Used to be document processing. You had to do it yourself. That's it. Microsoft has now trained a model to do that. OCR, just like we were talking about earlier inside of Excel, but for everything. Receipts. We have other things in here too, like detecting what language is being used or predicting outcomes. There's different components here that you can take a look at, but we're going to walk through a few of them in some detail. The first one is these pre-trained document processing tools that are in there. We have invoices and receipts that Microsoft has already trained. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say that Microsoft, being who they are, have probably trained these models on hundreds of thousands of documents and types. I would trust that using the invoices AI the invoices AI would be fairly accurate for most types of invoices. You can see with the example that they show, it's automatically picking up things like who the invoice is to, what the number is, what the invoice date is, the total amount, the line items, all that good stuff. And on the receipts, it's doing a very similar action where it's picking up these purchased items. It's even making a table out of it. And that's really impressive. So these are things that you can go and start using immediately. It didn't used to be this way. I'm going to show you what the custom processing looks like. When you're doing custom document processing, that is, if you're building out an actual AI model for your own custom documents, there's lots of reasons you might do that. They're going to be things that are more specific to you. It might be reports. It might be delivery receipts. Maybe you have a whole bunch of certificates you want to process and put against people. Maybe you get a bunch of different statements of work and you want to pull out that information and put it into some sort of estimate tool for later, or a log of some sort. There are 2 different types of documents when you're talking about document processing. There's both structured and unstructured. Structured are when things will be pretty much the same every time. So let's say you have reports. And the reports are, maybe there's 3 versions of them and they alternate, but they're pretty structured and similar. You expect the same information and the same amount of pages, that kind of thing. Whereas we have unstructured documents like statements of work. If you have statements of work coming in from 16 different clients, they're all going to look totally different. So those are not structured, and that it takes a different amount. If you are doing unstructured documents, it's English only right now. Structured documents, it can take other languages, but unstructured is English only. For every document type that you want to be able to run AI on, you need at least 3 examples of each, but they recommend 20. You're going to want the data to be slightly different If you do have unstructured documents that you want to put through, you're going to want all sorts of examples. I would say that 20 is pretty minimal for that amount. And you're going to need to tag every example document that you put through. So you load them up and then you drag a tagging field around it like this. And then you tell it which of your fields, you name the fields beforehand that you want to capture, and you tell it what that is. That's how it builds that model. The model will take a while to train. It will go and it will process all the documents you've uploaded, all of the tagging that you've done, and it will come back. And then you test your model. When you test your model, you upload documents that you didn't send through training, and you see how it does. If it does great, good, you can start. If it doesn't do great, doesn't do exactly what you want, then you're going to have to keep training it by giving it additional documents and building it out until you get an outcome that you like. It is a very iterative process. It's not just a one time and away you go. It's also something you'd need to update from time to time because documents change, wording changes, etc. Next, we have object detection. Now, this is a funny one. I like this one a lot. This is used all over the place now for many reasons. It's getting used by, if you've heard of those Amazon markets where you can put things in and it just kind of scans them and away it goes. That's object detection. It's used for manufacturing to identify how many items are in a particular place or, commodities that they need to get, that sort of thing. But the purpose of this is mostly to count the number of items. So how many things are out there. And that could be like, oh, I have 4 cans of soda, or it could be we found, 18 cracks in this cement. Both of those things are valid. Identify what type of item it is. Hey, is this a horse or is this a barn? That kind of thing. And monitor the usage of the item. So for example, a logo. If you have your logo and you want to make sure that it always has appropriate white space around it, or that it's not turned to black and white, something to that effect, then you would be able to use AI to monitor that. Good to know about this. You need 15 minimum images. However, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds are better. So if you put in 15 minimum images, I can guarantee you that your object detection is not going to be very accurate at all. You also need to tag the items in your images. So you're going to have some hands-on work there. And you have a minimum of 256 by 256 for sizing on that particular image. Now, let me give you an example here. When you're doing object detection, you want to make sure that the images you upload, and again, minimum being like 15, but you should have hundreds, like 1,000. You want to make sure you have diverse lighting. You want to make sure that you always have different backgrounds in behind whatever the item is that you're trying to recognize. You want to make sure that the item is shown in near and far, in different areas, like halved, whatever else, and from different angles. Otherwise, the AI is going to start making assumptions. So for example, in this particular example here, it's going to say, oh, an apple always has a hand attached to it. That's what an apple is. An apple is a circle thing with a pointy piece. It has a shine on it. And also there's a human hand attached to it. That's what an apple is. So if I see an apple on a tree, that's not an apple. Don't know what that is. AI is not going to be able to know. The same for below is, oh, these are all citrus. Citrus always come with a big white circle around them. That's how AI thinks. And this is why it's so important to have such a variety of images that you pull in and map. And when we talk about things like lighting or different backgrounds, if we took a picture of an apple on a carpet like this, it would always assume that apples always have that background. And if we had the lighting was always, in a darkened room, it would assume that apples are always darker in color. So you need to train it correctly. And on that note, here's an example of what happens when you only train 15 items. I put in some different types of dogs. Might be a little tricky to see, but they're just different versions of dogs. I said, okay, here are 15 images of dogs. I have tagged it. Here is a dog. That's a dog. We can all agree on that. and then I ran it. And then I put through some other images to see how it would do. Since I only used 15, this is what happened. You get some strange results. And okay, it's saying that this couch is 51% dog. I mean, it's better than nothing, I guess. But it's picking up that there's some white lines here. There's a dark line. Yeah, a dog has dark lines and white lines. Why wouldn't this be 50% dog? But these other images make a little less sense. Hey, dog, 98%, pretty good. A cat is not a dog. I think we can all agree, but it does have 2 ears, 2 eyes, a nose, and that matches all of the other images that it saw. So it thinks it's a dog. And then this one, actually, again, it has 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, and some fluffy looking stuff up here. It thinks it's a dog. This is why it's so important to train your models well, or else it's going to start making things like this, which can impact your data. So next we'll take a look at prediction. Prediction is pretty useful and is maybe part of what a lot of folks do inside of Excel analysis. This will help on that. If you've done a lot of Excel analysis before and you want to use that as a model, that's perfect. That means that you as a data analyst have just become extra useful. For example, things you might want to predict are how many deliveries might arrive at a particular location in a day, or what is the likelihood of a delivery being delayed. When you meet a particular customer based on their previous purchase history or their whatever history you have about them, what would be what product makes the most sense for them? Or when you receive a new claim from a medical applicant, or maybe you're processing dental claims, what is the likelihood that it will be approved? Is this person eligible for other types of insurance, things like that? These are things that with the appropriate historical data, an AI builder can determine. So for example, or good to know rather, is that you need at least 50 rows of data. That's the minimum of historical data, but they recommend at least 1,000 rows. And even 1,000 rows is pretty minimal. You need to have historical data that tells the model what happened. So for example, during February of 2019, we received 16 deliveries in this location, and any other factors that we had X amount of employees working that day. It was 23 degrees out. It was, whatever information you have, because prediction is going to be able to go through and look at all those different factors and identify what makes sense. Prediction ends up looking a little bit like this, where this is an example of of how it might use prediction, of saying, hey, we have this quality control. We're using it on this particular type of item. Based on all of these different factors that we've gathered, we've calculated, we've predicted that the fault probability is 98%. There's a 98% chance that we're going to have a fault on this item because of these numbers. I don't understand all these numbers because these are manufacturing things, but this gives you an example. Another one would be if you have a customer coming in, what is the likelihood that they're going to purchase? If you had all of that information based on what organization type, how big is the organization, how much does that organization make, what applications is that organization currently utilizing? If you have that information, you can make those predictions and make sure that your sales are directed in the right area. There are tons of applications for prediction. It's a very cool feature. Next is sentiment analysis. Now, this is if you are, for example, in marketing and you're tracking all of the different comments that maybe come through surveys or they come through Yelp reviews or whatever else, you can gather them and identify whether or not they were positive or negative. And it's actually very good at determining when you have a longer phrase or even double negatives, whether it was truly negative or not. So number one, here's, I really enjoyed Rhia's presentation on artificial intelligence in Microsoft's Office products, as well as the introduction to the artificial intelligence builder. 99% positive. It says this is a positive remark, and it is. But if I say that, and then I say, and I add to the end of it, but everything Rhia said was wrong and I will not ever attend another session, 97% negative. It immediately knows like, hey, they said something nice, but then they said something that totally counteracts that whole thing. So that's a negative. This one I thought was interesting is Rhia is awful, but this presentation was fantastic. It's positive. So you can see how it can be a little bit tricked. I don't know, me personally, I think that's a very negative remark, but I mean, I guess if the presentation was fantastic, that's what's important to it. And then the last one, I didn't dislike the presentation. I didn't learn anything new. And it actually errors out on this one. It says it's too mixed. It can't give a percentage because of how mixed it is. Text classification is quite similar, where it's actually going to be able to pick up different things, and you can point it to look at different pieces. For example, I can tell it to look at key phrases. I can tell it to look at key elements. Those are different things. So like a key phrase would be keywords from something, whereas key elements would be not the keywords, but the items it thinks are most important to a, and let's call it an interpreter. You can also classify text into custom categories if you build those custom categories. So on the left, you can see that when people submit some categorizations or tags, it's actually going to come through and say, hey, you know, it's a powerful tool that helps make quick changes. It sees the word quick, it sees powerful, it thinks this is good, it's going to categorize it as being good. It's trying to put it into specific buckets. So for my example again, whoops, my first one here is that I really enjoyed Rhia's presentation. It picks up the keywords, the key phrases of artificial intelligence builder, Rhia, office products, presentation, Microsoft introduction. Whereas if I do key elements and I say my ticket number is 123495, I need to know how to repair my furnace immediately. I last spoke with Elmer on February 21st. It picks up the ticket number, the name of the representative, and the date. And that's really impressive that it's able to look at that and identify those very key pieces of data. You can see, though, that it requires some training because I would have wanted it to pick up furnace as well, because that is the topic that it wants to talk about. It would need to be trained to know how to do that. Now, finally, to close this out, let's talk about costs. AI has improved in the costing, but all artificial intelligence inside of Microsoft is built in units. So you don't purchase like, oh, I'm going to run this X amount of times. You purchase a unit of AI, and every unit is 500, I think, American dollars per month. Every month for that AI unit. So it's not per user or anything like that. It's a unit of how much that's used. So for examples, invoice processing, if you do 100 invoices per month, that's 1 unit. It's $500 per month. If you do category classification, you do 500 strings of text per month, again, 1 unit, $500 per month. But if you do receipt processing, it's 80,000 receipts per month. It's 3 units at $1,500 per month. But you can also see how if we were to do object detection and we did 10,000 images per month using 5 different models, it's still only 1 unit at $500 per month. And you can combine all these things. So for example, if I could use invoice processing and category classification, and it would probably still come out to just 1 unit. So that only $500 per month. And really the amount of work that that's saving is much beyond that cost. There is a calculator for the AI as well that you can grab. We'll put that in the chat before I leave today. And it will actually let you go through and identify, hey, how much would you like to use or generate? Click a button and it will tell you how many units of AI that you get. They don't save from month to month. They don't pool together. So whatever you use is it. And that is it for my presentation. I hope you got something out of it. I will go grab that link right now and post it in the chat. If there are any questions, I'm happy to chat with you a bit here.
Thank you very much. Really, thank you very much for your wonderful session. What I would like to add is that people who are coming from Azerbaijan who joined to this session, They are mainly innovative educators. So to be innovative educator, you have to take a so-called MCE, so Technology Literacy for Educators exam. And this is related to 21st century learning design. So all about ICT, I mean, including Microsoft products like Survey, PowerPoint, Excel, Word, so on and so forth. So really you wrap up, I mean, all the information related to these products. And I thank you for this. Thank you very much, really. Appreciate
Thank you.
Yes, and you have shared the link, I hope.
Yep, just posted it.
Yeah. Okay, so you can ask your question. I mean, audience, if you have, or if you can turn on your camera or microphone, unmute yourself, and thus you can ask your question if there is any question. Thank you, Shahla. Yes. Okay. It seems that Rhia Wieclawek. By the way, I just tried to pronounce your name correctly. Wieclawek.
Wieclawek.
Wieclawek. Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much for your wonderful session. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And I will also share this. I mean, I will upload this meeting to my YouTube channel, and also will share with other members of Power BI, Excel, and with Tab group. So if there is no question, it seems that everybody understood everything, which is good. So that's it. Okay. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay. Bye.